Welcome to this edition of Western Bass TV. In this episode, we're out on the water with the fishing instructor, Randy Pringle, talking about some of his favorite techniques to catch largemouth bass. On this trip out, Randy talks about the Inchy Wacky rig, covered recently in Bass West USA magazine. So, here goes Randy.
You know, Bass West did an article on Inchy Wacky. It's Zappu, Z-A-P-P-U, with Captain Carl a while back. And I got to meet Captain Carl at the ICAST show. I roomed with him. He's on one of the pro staff that I am on. Matter of fact, yeah. So, it's something that I was involved with, this Zappu rig, Inchy Wacky. About 7 years ago, I did a show for the Japanese TV show called The Hits, and they came out here and filmed for 3 days. And this gentleman, Japanese gentleman, brought this little bitty hook out, and I'm throwing the big stuff, you know, and we're filming for largemouth bass, so they call them big mamas, you know. And this guy broke this little jiggy head out, and I went, you gotta be kidding me. What the heck is this little thing? Dude, whatever, you know, I'm going, throw that little spinning rod kind of stuff. Next thing I know, he's yelling out, fish, fish, fish. I'm going, okay. So after like the 4th or 5th fish, man, I was like, what the heck is this all about, man? So I let it go. He whooped me. He whooped me bad that day. On film, by the way. And so I let it go. A year later, I fished with a guy from Wisconsin. And this guy right here came out, and we're fishing, and he brought a little couple things he wanted to fish with. And I said, you know, what is it that you want to fish with? And he goes, I want to fish with this little wacky rig thing. And so I said, okay. So he rigs up this wacky thing, and it's the exact same little hook, little Inchy Wacky. And I went, you got to be kidding me, you know? So this guy starts whacking them again, and this is like 6 years ago, you know, just right after the other one. So then what happened was, I said, this is it. I asked the guy, why do you use these things? Well, he catches walleye with them, but he wanted to try them on bass. And I'm saying, well, you know, we can do that. So he just beat me up. So from that day forward, dude, I've got onto this little Inchy Wacky style bait, and I'm all over this little deal. And working on it heavily, my clients and I have just had a ball with this deal, catching a lot of large fish. As a matter of fact, I just got done with Clear Lake, California, and one of my clients caught an 11.4 on this thing. And it's just been a great thing for the young, to the experienced, to the old. You can catch a lot of fish with that. And we're going to go over all that. So we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about Inchy Wacky. Inchy Wacky. The Inchy Wacky. Oh, we can do it this way. Inchy Wacky. Oh, Inchy Wacky. So we're going to have some fun today. Come right back to you.
Hi, this is Ski Reese, and you're watching Western Bass TV.
Hi, folks. Roland Martin here, and you're watching Western Bass TV.
You know, I found with these Inchy Wackies, and I've fished with several different anglers that fished them before me. And what I do on every one of my baits is I get anal with them. And I know a lot of you guys out there do the same thing. You kind of dissect it. And I want to make it work better, faster, better it can be. And so what I do is I adjust it just a smidge. There's several different things that I do. Like I've got this bait rigged right now with a 7-inch hand-pour Berkeley worm. And I'm using an ox blood color, the darker, of course, because I want to fish this and make crawdad imitations. However, one of the things that, in the way I rigged it was they have a flat side and a round side. Now, if you think about this, it'll all make sense. But if you just rig it hook it wacky style, and then you throw it in the water. I've done a couple alterations to it. What I've done is, I've taken that bait, I have not done it traditional wacky. I just didn't go right through the egg sac and just put it in, because 50% of the time it'll be hung up on the bottom, and 50% of the time the hook will be up on the top. So what I did was I went right dead center of the bait and hooked it in, so that when it lays flat on the bottom, the actual point can never hit the bottom, because the worm itself, the thickness of the worm and the head of the bait allows the hook to be parallel with the bottom terrain. So your percentage of losing them is great. So of course the company probably doesn't like me to say that, but that's a good way to do it. The other thing is, when you lift and you bring it in, I'm using the flat side. It's got the most water resistance. So when it's coming at you, when you're pulling that bait or working that bait, it's doing this. It's doing that chatterbait style concept. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to see if the camera can catch this as I'm reeling it in. And he'll probably be able to catch it right about in here. So when I'm throwing it out there, I'm going to reel this bait in, and I want you to look at the vibration pattern this bait has. The key is to find that outside defined line of where the fish will move out on the tide exiting. As you dips down, you want to find that outside line. This is definitely not a technique you throw it way back there and punch with. It ain't going to happen. You're fighting bear, you know, with the pair of tweezers. That ain't happening with this. This is outside line. Typically a largemouth bass, what he'll do is you'll grab it and he'll start moving out to deeper water. That's what usually will happen. And so you go out with him and then you just fight him out in the water. When he wants to come back, give him a little pressure. Don't let him back in the weeds, because that could give you a bad day. You'll say, well, I had that fish, you know. So we want to keep that fish in your zone. And the best way to do that is fish that outside line with this style rig. You'll be just fine. Don't use too soft of a rod too. I mean, I'm using a Fenwick rod right here. This one right here is their shaking rod. I'm using this right here to allows me. It's got a great little tip to it, and the key is it doesn't all bend. You don't want that big archy style rod, because that's like a split shot rod. This one's a real fast tip rod. I'm using 8-pound test trilene fluorocarbon line, good reel, Abu Garcia. So you know, we're out there having a good old time fishing with the right time of tackle here. If you go with too heavy a line, 10, 12-pound test, you lose the movement of the worm. So if you use too big of a spool, you know, what you do is you get a lot of line twist. Keys on any type when you're using spinner reels is to make sure that when you're fishing techniques like that, you're having a good time. You get a lot of line twists with fluorocarbon line. Some of the guys are telling you, don't fill up your spool all the way up. If you fill your spool all the way up, get a lot of line twist. So you want to make sure you don't put that line twist in the air. You want to make sure that you throw the bail over always manually, never click it over. Don't do that, it reverses the line. Techniques I've talked about in the past, reiterating again, so you'll have a better time. Make sure when you do flip that bail over manually, line up your lines, put it up, and you'll rarely have a problem. You just don't want that little loop coming in there, because you flip that bail over, because I did it earlier, and there's that little loop right there. That's what the one that kills you right there. If you take a look at that, you'll see that little loop starting. You want to make sure, don't cast it out the next time. Get rid of it right then and there. There, I've gotten rid of it. Pull it out forward, put your finger on the line, and reel you through your fingers, and then you're fine for the rest of the time. Just make sure you take that little time when you're working that stuff. You find it be a lot easier on you in the long run. You know what we need to do? We need to go catch a fish, Inchy Wacky style. So, you know, here we got no tide movement at all. And if you let the bait sit there, oh, my worm. I want to show you something here. Oh, that's a bummer. That's not good. That's terrible. I want you to show you something right up on the top. Can you see that hole right there on the top of that lip of that fish? Right there. That's where the hook goes almost every time. Right up on that top, holding that fish. And that's where you want it. You want it to lock in, because when you're looking at this Inchy Wacky style hook, it's built. Let's see, I'm going to put it right like this. Let's stick it in my hand just a smidge. It's built on a 60-degree bend. And because that 60-degree bend is different than a 90-degree, and then the weight is offset to give it more shimmer, so it fluctuates in the water, you're allowed to get between that by sticking. I can take this finger and stick it between the hook and the barb, and so that is important, because if a fish has that upper lip plate that's that big, that's a giant fish, and that hook can rotate around and go right into it and lock in that fish's mouth, which makes that Inchy Wacky Zappu head on top of the game right there. Makes it simple and easy.
Hi, I'm Gary Dobbins, and you're watching Western Bass TV.
Hi everybody, I'm Al Linder, and you're here watching Western Bass TV.
Talk to me. Talk to me. You little Zappu fish. Walk over there. Come on up here. Come on up here. There it is. Right there again. This is right up on that upper plate. That's where it should hit every single time. That fish is not going to get away. The only way that fish is going to get away if you give slack line. You're not going to lose him. Just pop it, turn it, rotate it out, pop it right out. Fish is not injured. There it is. Small keeper fish. You want to have a lot of good times with fishing in general. You know, this might not be like the punching, the wake baits, and the big top water baits, swim baits. It might not be that, you know, oh, I love throwing swim baits. I love the. This is a fish catching machine, this style of fishing. If you want to go out and catch a lot of fish and have a lot of time and a lot of fun, right here, man, you're going to catch fish. It's an easy technique for everyone to learn. Inchy Wacky, fishing instructor. Get on those fish, guys.